Well, I'm really glad to be here, and I just was talking to Rebecca, and I said how thrilled I am to be with people who spend their weekends learning how to make the world a better world instead of, dancing or fishing or hiking. So I really appreciate the invite, and I appreciate being here. And building on what Diana was saying, I think the idea of to see the interconnectedness of the national liberation movements and the movements here for justice and for peace and for the broader anti-imperialist movement needs to be looked upon, after the struggles of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and in light of what's going on in the Arab world especially, and the positions of the solidarity movement here in the US, that concept of what, and actually I'm not even a fan of the word solidarity movement, because that kind of have a separations, like it's a good movement that we need to help it, rather than it's our movement and we're part of it. And in that sense, we need to look at it, because the people, and I want to focus on the Arab world for now, although that doesn't separate the Arab world from the global anti-imperialist work, but the people in the Arab world know that they're fighting against the empire. I mean, it's so clear. First, they live in a world that has been shaped by the empire, and we need to know that. We need to know that the Arab world that exists today, and much of the world, is a manifestation of decisions, policies, and ideas that came from Europe. In the 19th century, the Arab world was a world not divided, but living under the Ottoman Empire, and then the imperialist countries in Europe fighting and competing for resources and for control in the world. When they won the war, the First World War, took this big chunk of land and really divided it in a very crude way, not looking just this chunk is for you, this chunk is for you, divided it among themselves. And the Arab world today is 22 countries, basically, is the people there is fighting against that arrangement, the world order that has been established for them at the turn of the century. And why is it been divided? So the people of the regions can never gain their freedom, they never can get control of their destiny for many reasons. If you look at the map, you can see how important that chunk of land as resources and other things for imperialism, because this is Asia, Europe is in the north, Africa, and then the Americas there. But if you look at the waterways, you can see how important it is. You have here, if you want to go from any part of Europe to India, you need to come here. If you need resources to bring it from Asia, then you have to go through here. And if you want to get oil from Saudi Arabia, you have to go through this and this. The Suez Canal is right here. And you see Palestine and Jordan is right in the middle of basically physical center of the three continents, which is very important to Europe. So the control of the region was really important, not just because of the oil now, but for imperialism was to connect to their colonies in India and Pakistan and those regions, and also to Africa. So the attempt to divide that piece of land was to keep the control of it was really an important thing for imperialism, and we're suffering the consequences of that right now. So to counter that, the people of the region and their struggle against this arrangement have developed three kinds of thoughts to rally them and to organize them in the fight. So we have Pan-Arabism, which is basically a call that this region has to unite again, and those fake borders to be cancelled, and so that fight against imperialism took that call, Pan-Arabism, and the United States, who inherited that world and the world order from the British, really labeled Pan-Arabism as a threat and as an enemy, and concentrated on weakening. So the struggle against, anti-colonialism at those times, where some of those regions gained independence, like Egypt, like Libya today, each country became independent, basically from classic colonialism, meaning they were able in their struggle to push the boots and the presence, the physical presence of the West in their own countries. But that did not really change the world order, because imperialism found a way of reestablishing its control through economics and through other means. And now, what they did is they imposed client regimes in those areas and controlled them. So the people, the movements in Egypt and in Libya right now, Tunisia, Yemen, are really fighting against those client regimes, against the dictatorship that has been always supported by the West, and looking for more control, more incorporation in the decision making. And that's why you see, for example, in Egypt, the slogans are not really economical in the sense of global connection, but they're looking for democracy, they're looking for local things right now, because they recognize that if we can free ourselves from the local clients, so tactically, they haven't, for example, raised, if you notice, they didn't burn the flag of the United States like they usually do, or Israel, or called for the freedom of Palestine, and people are wondering about that. But the people learn, they really learn from their struggle and how to conduct that struggle. So where it is going, as soon as this world order stays as it is, and as soon as this world order is kept and is protected by imperialism led by the United States, the struggle of the people here, and your struggle, you're in the belly of the beast. And the struggle of the world for freedom from imperialism is not going to go anywhere if the movement here does not connect to that. Because basically, to win, it has to be the people of here. And that's why, if you notice, the system concentrate on you guys more than they concentrate on those struggles outside, because they can win militarily, they can burn over there, but they cannot do this here. How they do it? They do it with controlling this country ideologically by a vast, strong propaganda machine called the mainstream media and others, putting stories, are fake myths basically, and convincing the people with it, like the American way of life, and attacking us because they're jealous of our freedoms and things like that. And those stories get hold of the people, even the immigrants who come from other countries. After a couple of years, they start talking about the American dream. And there really is, they don't have a freedom. Basically, I come to this country, and in 4 or 5 years, I was arrested, put in jail, and considered a terrorist. That's in 1987, and 20 years I'm fighting against this. It's a myth that if you wanna, the American dream in America means that just don't fight against the system. Accept it as is, and go get a house and a dog and stuff, and pay your mortgage and stuff. Work all your life, pay the banks, everything, and you're fine. That's the American dream. But if you say, I don't want it, I want a better world, then you're a threat and you're a terrorist. So you guys are the future leader of the anti-imperialist work. You have to look into the liberation movements of the world as your movement. Not a movement that needs solidarity from you, but actually you cannot win without them, they cannot win without you. It's just one struggle. And connect to the broader struggle from, gender equality, the environment, all of that is so connected with each other. And as Diana said, you need to focus your work, and I understand that because it's so broad. But again, keep in mind that when they win, we win. When you win, they win, and carry that with you on daily basis in your work, and develop it more. Look where you make mistakes, in that aspect, and we're not. The left right now in the United States, and I'll end up with that, some of them have a position of supporting Gaddafi because the United States intervention in Libya, rather than being sophisticated enough to say that I can be against Gaddafi and be against the intervention in the same time and have a way of looking at things. It's not like the friend of you know, my enemy is my, what is it? My
enemy of my enemy.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's really simple, and we thought that this aspect came from the East actually, but it's understood wrongly here. So again, I thank you for listening, and my time is up. We can talk more.
Questions for Michel?
I think you were starting to say that there was 3 different ways that anti-colonial organizing in the Arab world had manifested, and you talked about pan-Arab identities. And did I miss the other 2?
Yes, you missed the other 2, because I didn't have time to. It's pan-Arabism, Islamism, people who espouse Islamism, and socialism. And there is movements that espouse to, like for example, the Ba'ath Party in Syria right now, and Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party in Iraq, where pan-Arabism with socialism, like they try to combine a system like that. So the West, when pan-Arabism led the way to liberate the area from the direct control, like the British and the French, what happened is they espoused pan-Arabism, and then the United States and the West really hit hard the systems and the regimes and the movements that espoused that, and weakened them. So basically, what happened with those regimes and those ideas, they become compromised with the West right now. Like Egypt came from that, like Algeria, like Libya, Gaddafi. So what happened is now the anti-imperialist carriers, if you will, of the struggle became the Islamists. You know, so the people started to see that the pan-Arabists went all the way to make friends with the West. Now the Islamists are saying, well, we're going to liberate you. And since the pan-Arabists and the socialism were the names were put together, so socialism and the collapse of the Soviet Union, socialism has not, has kind of disappeared and weakened in the region. So the Islamists right now are at the forefront of leading that, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like other movements. Although the left and the secularists in the region see this as a threat too, And basically, what led to that is the West destroying the pan-Arabists who were secular and were leftist in their approach. And led to the Islamist, in Afghanistan they helped them, like Osama bin Laden's didn't come from nowhere, they came from the support of the West in the struggle, in their fight against the Soviet Union. So the struggle with the left right now, the dilemma is how to be against the Islamists but not to fall into helping imperialism win, like in Syria, for example. Look at now, you'll find them defending Syria, although Syria is a dictatorship and they want it out, but in the same time they don't want to have, it's a big dilemma. I mean, the Arab world is too complex, it takes a lot of talk. I have to learn how to do sound bites.